Rob Reiner, the celebrated director whose films shaped generations, appeared to the outside world as the picture of Hollywood success. From This Is Spinal Tap to A Few Good Men, his career was glittered with accolades, his life seemingly a blueprint of achievement. Yet behind the cameras, away from the red carpets and spotlights, a far darker story was unfolding. In the weeks before his passing, those closest to him whispered of an increasing withdrawal, a shadow settling over the man whose laughter once filled every room. Friends and family began noticing subtle signs: missed calls, unanswered messages, a reluctance to leave the house. What many assumed was simply a need for rest or privacy would soon reveal itself as a harbinger of something far more tragic. Reiner's final days were marked by a quiet struggle that few could have predicted. Longtime associates described a man burdened not just by illness, but by the weight of decades of scrutiny and personal disappointment. Behind closed doors, he wrestled with health complications, the details of which remained closely guarded even to those who loved him. While Hollywood knew him as a visionary director and beloved actor, few realized that he faced a relentless battle that was as psychological as it was physical. According to sources, Reiner's typical resilience was under siege. The energy that once propelled him through films and projects was slowly eroding. The tragic truth, revealed only after his death, painted a picture of a man caught between public expectation and private suffering. Friends disclosed that he had been struggling with intense pain and medical complications that made even daily routines arduous. A life spent in the public, I meant that Reiner often kept his vulnerabilities hidden, fearing the invasive gaze of the press. This duality, the man everyone admired versus the man silently suffering, created an internal conflict that left him isolated in ways many could not understand. He had dedicated decades to telling stories of humanity, humor, and conflict on screen. Yet in his own life, the narratives of hardship and vulnerability were carefully concealed. Family accounts describe moments of poignant clarity amidst the decline. Reiner, ever the storyteller, would sometimes reflect on his life with a mixture of pride and regret, acknowledging his professional triumphs while quietly mourning personal losses that were invisible to the world. The passing of close friends, family estrangements, and unresolved tensions weighed heavily on him. Those who visited in his final days noted a man who, despite his declining health, remained sharp in conversation, his wit intact, but whose body and spirit were clearly battling forces beyond recovery. The juxtaposition of a brilliant mind and a faltering body painted a stark portrait of the human vulnerability that fame often obscures. As the days progressed, it became evident that Reiner's condition required constant attention, and those around him struggled with the limitations imposed by his failing health. Medical professionals attempted interventions, but the complexity of his condition meant that outcomes were uncertain. His death, when it finally occurred, was not sudden in the sense of shock. It was the culmination of a decline that had been quietly accelerating behind closed doors. The revelation of the specifics surrounding his final days shocked the entertainment world, both for the intensity of his suffering and for the courage he displayed in facing it with dignity. In the wake of his passing, the public narrative that had long celebrated Rob Reiner's successes began to shift, uncovering the layers of personal hardship that had remained hidden. Fans, colleagues, and even casual admirers were confronted with a sobering truth: that beneath the glamour and accolades, there had been a deeply human struggle, a man who had given so much to the world while quietly enduring his own trials. The tragedy of Reiner's final days lies not just in the loss of an iconic talent, but in the revelation of how private pain can coexist with public triumph, how even those who seem invincible are subject to the fragile realities of life. As news of Rob Reiner's passing spread, those who had been closest to him began to share fragments of the private struggles he had endured. Longtime collaborators described a man who, despite appearing calm and composed in public, had been quietly contending with severe physical pain and medical complications. The juxtaposition between his public persona, the confident, witty filmmaker and actor, and the private reality of his decline created a stark and unsettling contrast. Reiner had always been meticulous about controlling his image. The Hollywood world knew him as a visionary, yet few truly understood the depth of the personal battles he faced. In his final weeks, Reiner increasingly sought solitude, preferring the quiet of his home to the hustle of film sets or social engagements. He reportedly spent long hours reflecting on his life, grappling with the weight of his accomplishments and the sorrow of missed opportunities in his personal relationships. Friends recounted moments where he would pause mid-conversation, eyes distant, as though recalling memories he had long tried to suppress. These moments revealed a side of Reiner rarely seen, a man profoundly human, grappling with regrets, vulnerabilities, and the inexorable realities of aging. The shock for many came not only from the fact of his death, but from the circumstances surrounding it. Medical professionals and family members confirmed that Reiner's health had been more fragile than the public had imagined. He endured treatments, hospital visits, and medications that taxed both body and mind. Yet he insisted on maintaining independence as long as possible, refusing to let his condition define the last chapter of his life. This determination, admirable as it was, also masked the extent of his suffering. Those who visited him in these final days described a fragile balance between determination and fatigue, each day a battle against the limits imposed by his body. One of the most heartbreaking revelations was the emotional toll of isolation. Despite a life surrounded by colleagues, friends, and admirers, Reiner's private suffering often left him feeling profoundly alone. Friends noted that he rarely spoke openly about his pain, preferring to shield others from the harsh realities of his condition. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a testament to the resilience and pride that had defined his public life. Yet, in hindsight, this quiet struggle underscored the very human need for connection, empathy, and understanding, even for someone whose achievements seemed larger than life. In the days immediately preceding his death, Reiner reportedly had moments of lucidity and reflection that were both poignant and revealing. He expressed gratitude for his career, for the stories he had told, and for the lives he had touched through his work. Yet there was also a lingering sense of unfinished business, of personal reconciliation left incomplete. Loved ones later described these conversations as bittersweet, a mixture of pride in his legacy and sorrow over the trials he had faced silently. These final interactions captured the essence of Reiner's life, a brilliant, creative mind wrestling with the realities of mortality and the human heart. The revelation of Reiner's struggles in his final days prompted a wave of reflection across Hollywood. Fans and colleagues were forced to confront the reality that fame and success do not shield anyone from pain, loss, or the inevitability of death. The story of his last days became a cautionary tale about the fragility behind public personas, a reminder that even icons of culture and achievement are subject to the universal challenges of human life. It also sparked conversations about how society views illness, vulnerability, and the end of life, particularly for those whose lives are lived in the spotlight. Ultimately, Rob Reiner's final days revealed a man of immense talent, wit, and determination who faced profound challenges with courage and dignity. His death, while tragic, illuminated the resilience that defined him not just as a filmmaker and actor, but as a human being navigating the complexities of life and mortality. The shocking truths behind his passing, the medical struggles, the private grief, the quiet battles, offer a deeper understanding of the man behind the legend. They remind us that even the brightest lights can harbor shadows, and that the stories of our heroes often contain depths we may never fully comprehend. In the wake of Rob Reiner's passing, the layers of his life began to unfold with startling clarity. Behind the celebrated career, the awards, and the memorable performances lay a man who had confronted both external pressures and internal battles with a fortitude few could imagine. Those who were with him in his final days revealed the remarkable complexity of his character, a blend of humor, intellect, and vulnerability that made him beloved yet deeply human. Every conversation, every moment shared with loved ones, carried the weight of reflection, memory, and unspoken fears. Friends noted that Reiner remained remarkably aware of his surroundings even as his physical health declined. He would joke, laugh, and reminisce about iconic moments from his films, yet beneath the levity was a subtle melancholy. It was as if he understood that his story was drawing to a close, and he approached each interaction with a mixture of gratitude and quiet resignation. Family members recall seeing him gaze out of windows, lost in thought, perhaps revisiting decades of personal and professional experiences, balancing pride with the regret of what could have been. One of the most profound revelations about his final days was the emotional honesty he shared with those closest to him. Away from the cameras, Reiner spoke openly about the struggles he had kept hidden from the public, moments of fear, loneliness, and frustration. He reflected on the pressures of fame, the sacrifices made for art, and the personal relationships that had been strained or lost along the way. These confessions, though intimate, highlighted a universal truth that behind a mask of success often lies a private story of human struggle, resilience, and reflection. As the end approached, Reiner's condition required constant care and support. Medical teams, friends, and family coordinated to ensure his comfort. Yet it became increasingly clear that the final chapter of his life was imminent. Those present describe a man who, even in frailty, remained sharp-minded, offering insight, humor, and wisdom to those around him. In these final interactions, he embodied both the artist who had given so much to the world and the man quietly confronting mortality. The juxtaposition of vitality and vulnerability was striking, leaving an indelible impression on all who witnessed it. The aftermath of his death revealed the depth of the loss, not only to the film industry, but to everyone who admired his work. Tributes poured in from colleagues, actors, and fans worldwide, each emphasizing the mark Reiner had left on culture and storytelling. Yet, alongside the public mourning came an intimate recognition of the private battles he endured. The revelation of his struggles prompted reflection on the fragility of life, the invisibility of suffering, and the courage it takes to face one's final days with honesty and dignity. Rob Reiner's legacy, therefore, extends beyond his films and awards. It encompasses a narrative of resilience, vulnerability, and humanity, a reminder that the brightest lights are not immune to the shadows that life casts. His final days, as tragic as they were, illuminate the complexity of a life fully lived, one that entertained, inspired, and challenged audiences, while also navigating deeply personal trials. The shocking truths behind his death underscore the universal reality that even those who seem invincible are bound by the same fragilities that touch every human life. Ultimately, the story of Rob Reiner's last days is both heartbreaking and illuminating. It is a testament to a life of creativity, courage, and honesty, and a reminder that the man behind the fame experienced the profound highs and lows that define the human condition. His passing marks the end of an era in Hollywood, yet the lessons of his resilience and vulnerability endure, resonating with all who seek to understand the man beyond the legend. Even after Rob Reiner's passing, the ripple effects of his final days continued to captivate and sadden those who had followed his life and career. Industry insiders revealed that his quiet suffering had been largely invisible to the public eye, masked by decades of professional charisma and personal charm. In those final weeks, the dichotomy between his public persona, the confident, witty, and larger-than-life figure, and his private reality became painfully apparent. The man who had commanded sets and inspired actors now relied on the tender care and attention of those closest to him, a stark contrast to the control and autonomy he had long exercised over his work and image. Family members described a profound sense of intimacy in the moments leading up to his death. Reiner, ever the storyteller, would reminisce about the beginnings of his career, recalling with warmth the people and experiences that had shaped him. Yet these recollections were often tinged with melancholy, as he reflected on the personal costs of a life in the limelight. Friends noted that he seemed acutely aware that his time was limited, and he approached each conversation with honesty, sharing thoughts and feelings he had long kept private. These final revelations provided insight into the man behind the legend, illustrating both his vulnerability and his unwavering spirit. In the days immediately preceding his death, Reiner's condition required near-constant medical supervision. Despite this, he retained his signature sharpness of mind and sense of humor, often engaging in spirited dialogue with family, friends, and caretakers. Observers noted a quiet determination to maintain dignity, even as his body weakened and the inevitability of the end drew closer. This balance between resilience and vulnerability defined his final chapter, a deeply human struggle unfolding in the shadow of celebrity, underscoring the universality of mortality. The public, upon learning the truth about Reiner's final days, experienced a mix of shock and sorrow. While fans had admired his films and talent for decades, the revelation of his private suffering prompted reflection on the often hidden realities behind fame. Many were moved by the courage he displayed in facing his challenges, and by the grace with which he navigated the fragility of life. Colleagues and friends recounted moments of laughter and reflection, capturing the duality of his final days, a blend of warmth, intellect, and a poignant recognition of life's impermanence. In the aftermath, the legacy of Rob Reiner took on new dimensions. Beyond the awards, box office successes, and cultural impact, his story highlighted the complexities of human existence, the intersection of achievement and vulnerability, public admiration and private struggle. The shocking truths behind his passing serve as a reminder that even those who seem invincible are subject to the same forces that shape every life: aging, illness, regret, and ultimately, mortality. His final days revealed not just the end of a remarkable career, but the enduring lessons of resilience, honesty, and the power of connection. Ultimately, Rob Reiner's story, especially his final days, is a testament to the human spirit. It reflects the courage required to face suffering privately, the grace needed to confront the end with dignity, and the indelible mark left on the world by someone who gave everything to his craft. His life, and the revelations of his last days, remind us that behind every legend lies a human being whose struggles, triumphs, and vulnerabilities deserve recognition, empathy, and understanding. As the story of Rob Reiner's final days reached the public, a fuller picture emerged, one that blended admiration, sorrow, and reflection. Those closest to him spoke of moments that were intimate, raw, and revealing, shedding light on the private battles he had faced away from cameras and accolades. In his last hours, Reiner's demeanor reflected the culmination of a life lived with both brilliance and complexity. He remained mentally acute, contemplative, and, at times, unexpectedly tender. Friends and family recounted him expressing gratitude for the relationships he had nurtured and the stories he had shared, even as he confronted the reality that his journey was nearing its end. The tragic reality of his final days underscored a universal truth. Even those who appear larger than life are vulnerable to the relentless forces of illness, aging, and human fragility. Reiner's story revealed how fame often masks vulnerability, how a lifetime of public success can coexist with private suffering, and how courage is sometimes displayed not on stage or screen, but quietly, in the acceptance of one's circumstances. Those who spent time with him described an unspoken resilience, a strength that allowed him to face discomfort, decline, and uncertainty with dignity. In reflecting on Reiner's legacy, it became clear that his contributions extended far beyond Hollywood. His films had inspired, entertained, and challenged audiences, yet the lessons of his final days offered a different kind of insight, a reminder of the importance of compassion, awareness, and understanding toward those who struggle silently. Loved ones noted that he had maintained his humor and wit to the very end, a testament to the core of his character that had always balanced intellect with levity. Yet beneath the humor lay a profound humanity, a depth of experience that spoke to both triumph and tragedy. For fans and colleagues alike, the revelation of his private struggles humanized the icon. Rob Reiner, the celebrated director and actor, became more than just a public figure. He became a representation of the complexity inherent in every human life. The juxtaposition of achievement and vulnerability, of joy and sorrow, of public persona and private reality. His passing left a void in Hollywood, but it also left a legacy of honesty, resilience, and the quiet courage to face life's most difficult chapters with grace. Ultimately, the shocking truths behind Rob Reiner's death do not diminish the brilliance of his life. They amplify it. They remind us that even those who entertain, inspire, and lead in the public eye face struggles invisible to the world. His final days, tragic as they were, offer lessons in empathy, dignity, and the fragile beauty of life itself. Rob Reiner's story, now fully revealed, stands as both a tribute to an extraordinary career and a meditation on the human experience, one in which triumphs and tragedies are inseparable, and where the legacy of love, creativity, and courage endures far beyond the final curtain. Even after the initial shock of Rob Reiner's passing, those who had known him personally began sharing more intimate reflections on his final days. They spoke of quiet moments that were never meant for public consumption, times when Reiner would sit alone, reflecting on the decades he had spent shaping stories, directing actors, and influencing Hollywood culture. Friends recounted seeing him hold a worn script in his hands, tracing the lines he had written or directed, and smiling faintly at memories of the creative energy that had defined his life. These moments revealed a profound connection to his craft, even as his physical strength waned. Family members revealed that despite his struggles, Reiner maintained a deep curiosity and engagement with the world around him. He asked questions about his favorite actors, recent films, and cultural events, displaying the same sharp intellect that had guided him through a lifetime of cinematic excellence. Yet there was a subtle melancholy underlying his curiosity, a recognition that the world he had helped shape was moving forward without him. In those private hours, Reiner's reflections became both a celebration of his achievements and a silent acknowledgement of life's impermanence. Medical challenges during these final days were compounded by the emotional strain of isolation. Reiner, who had spent a life in the public eye, was now confined largely to the presence of those closest to him. The contrast between his once dominant presence on sets and stages and the quiet vulnerability of home life was striking. Yet in these moments of fragility, his resilience shone through. He remained composed, engaging, and even humorous, often deflecting concern with a sharp quip or playful observation, reminding those around him of the wit that had long endeared him to audiences worldwide. Perhaps most poignant were the moments of connection he shared with loved ones. Children, grandchildren, and close friends would gather around him, sharing stories, laughter, and memories. These interactions, though tinged with sadness, reflected the essence of Reiner's life. A man whose greatest impact extended beyond film reels and awards to the people whose lives he touched directly. In these intimate settings, the broader narrative of his life, successes, regrets, joys, and sorrows, intertwined, creating a tapestry of a life fully lived, even amid hardship. As the final hours approached, Reiner's acceptance of mortality became evident. Sources reported that he faced the inevitable with a calm that was both moving and inspiring. He expressed gratitude for the journey he had undertaken, the people he had met, and the stories he had told. And while the shadow of death loomed, he met it with a sense of dignity, reinforcing the lessons of resilience and humanity that had permeated his life. Those who witnessed these moments described them as profoundly intimate, a glimpse into the man behind the icon, a man who had lived fully, loved deeply, and confronted the end with quiet courage. Rob Reiner's final days, now fully revealed, serve as a testament not only to a remarkable career, but to the enduring strength of the human spirit. They remind us that behind every celebrated figure is a human being, navigating struggles unseen by the public eye. His story, layered with triumph, tragedy, and private endurance, offers a lasting lesson in empathy, resilience, and the dignity of facing life's final chapter with honesty and courage. In the final chapter of Rob Reiner's life, the contrast between the man the world saw and the man those closest to him knew became even more striking. While the public remembered him as a towering figure in Hollywood, a brilliant director and actor, a storyteller whose work had entertained and inspired millions, those present in his last days witnessed a different, profoundly human side. He was quiet at times, reflective, grappling with the cumulative weight of decades in the public eye. Yet every interaction revealed the same intelligence, humor, and warmth that had defined him. Family and friends recounted moments where Reiner would reflect on both triumphs and regrets. He spoke of career milestones with pride, but also acknowledged the personal sacrifices that fame and relentless work demanded. Relationships strained by time and distance, moments of lost connection, and private disappointments were all part of the reflections he shared. These candid moments offered insight into the man behind the legend, a figure who had given so much to the world but had carried personal burdens in silence. Even as his physical health declined, Reiner remained engaged with those around him. He asked thoughtful questions, offered advice, and expressed concern for the well-being of loved ones. Observers noted that while his body showed signs of frailty, his mind was sharp, his spirit unbroken. Humor persisted, sometimes darkly ironic, sometimes playful, a reminder of the quick wit that had long been his hallmark. These final exchanges highlighted not just his intellect, but the emotional depth that had made him a beloved figure both on and off the screen. As his condition worsened, the intensity of his struggle became more apparent. Medical interventions, constant care, and monitoring were necessary. Yet Reiner approached each challenge with quiet determination. He maintained his dignity, rarely voicing frustration, choosing instead to focus on the relationships and memories that mattered most. For those present, witnessing this balance of vulnerability and resilience was both heart-wrenching and inspiring, a testament to his enduring character even in the face of mortality. The poignancy of Reiner's final days was further amplified by the moments of human connection that punctuated them. Loved ones would read to him, reminisce about shared experiences, and offer reassurance and comfort. In these intimate exchanges, laughter mingled with tears, revealing the depth of affection and respect he inspired. Friends recalled his appreciation for these moments, noting how even small gestures, a touch, a shared story, a familiar joke, carried enormous significance in the context of his declining health. Ultimately, Part 7 of Reiner's story underscores the complexity of his final chapter, a life marked by public achievement, yet deeply human in its private struggles. The man who had entertained, challenged, and inspired countless people now faced the universal trials of mortality with courage, honesty, and grace. His final days, full of reflection, connection, and resilience, reveal a legacy that extends beyond film and fame, one that speaks to the enduring strength, dignity, and humanity of Rob Reiner.